I don't know about you, but I often feel like when we look at the news or really anything in life today, there is a whirlwind, a constant motion happening. At least for me, maybe because I have 3 kids, I feel as if all I am doing is running from one place to the next, one thing after the other, trying to just keep up, which seems to be a harder task as time moves forward. I've also found myself, of course, wrestling with and watching the news, and then every once in a while going, oh, I need to stop doom scrolling, and then I find myself back again looking at the news. But I find myself dealing with and wrestling with yet another question, a deeper question. Even as the world changes around us, no deciding factor, good, bad, or whatever on it, are we remaining true to who we are? This 7th day of Passover, which of course is tomorrow because I miscounted, provides the perfect backdrop with reflecting on the very answer to this question. This day commemorates the 7th day of Passover, commemorates the Exodus from Egypt, specifically the moment when the Israelites left Egyptian bondage, began their journey toward revelation at Sinai, and the Israelites, of course, if you recall anything about the book, were busy collecting plunder. We can discuss whether or not that was good, bad, or something for a different sermon on a different night. And yet Moses, amongst all of the chaos, had still presence of mind. In the midst of all of that upheaval, I think he demonstrated in so many ways what leadership can be. In that he honored previous commitments. He didn't abandon them because circumstances became difficult. When looking closely at Exodus 13:19, we see a profound moment in our history. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had surely sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely remember you, and ye shall carry my bones away with you. In the midst of this great upheaval, the Exodus from Egypt, when people are all the time bothering Moses, he remembers an obligation from a generation, or actually multiple generations from before. Joseph on his deathbed had made the Israelites swear on oath that when God would remember, they would carry his bones out of Egypt. Genesis 50, verse 25. Think about that for a moment. Egyptian armies in pursuit. There's been the death of the firstborn of all of the Egyptians, so you know they're not happy. People are absolutely terrified, attempting to collect whatever possessions they could in haste. And there is Moses, focused on fulfilling an oath from a previous generation. The Mechilta, an early commentary from the 2nd century, highlights this about Moses as a leader. This apprises us of the wisdom and saintliness of Moses. All of Israel were occupying themselves with the spoils, and Moses was occupying himself with the mitzvah of the bones of Joseph. While everyone else was focusing on personal gain or maybe safety, Moses kept his eye on a long-term obligation. The Sforno, Italian medieval commentator, emphasizes this point when he said, any obligation undertaken communally must be honored by the leader of that community when the time and opportunity presents itself to discharge that obligation. The rabbis were defining what leadership looks like. It is not simply responding to the crisis of the moment, but it is remembering prior commitments that define a people. Now you may be wondering, like I was, how on God's green earth Moses not only bring the bones, but remember where they were after so many generations. Well, the Midrash has this, frankly, hilarious account. Moses sought out Sarah, the daughter of Asher, who happened to have lived a very long time. like hundreds of years. Already, you know, we're kind of in fantastical land with the rabbis. She told him that the Egyptians had placed Joseph into an iron casket and sunk it into the Nile River, hoping that his presence would bless the waters. Moses then went to the Nile's edge. He called out in the special way that Moses could whenever he gets near water, "Joseph, the time which the Holy One, praised be God, gave an oath to remember Israel has expired. The oath which you have adjured Israel is now to be fulfilled. If you will reveal yourself, wonderful. But if not, then we shall be free from the obligation of your oath." And immediately, we're told, Joseph's casket rose to the surface of the Nile River. It's a moment after all Marvel Comics would be so proud. But the powerful image stands, as it were. There is Moses calling out across the generations, ready to fulfill a sacred promise. And in case you're curious, those bones obviously were safe. The iron casket did not rust. There was no degradation. In fact, the Hebrew word for bones, atzamot, share the same word for essence. And Shnei Luchot Habrit, written by Rabbi Isaac Horowitz, emphasizes the dual meaning that Moses took not only his bones, but also his essence when he traveled with the Israelites. And this essence that Moses went on to honor, in case you are curious, it is the integrity of faith well maintained through trials and tribulations. And as we all know in the story of Numbers, Moses faces trials and tribulations like nothing he thought he ever would. But he had Joseph's bones to push him forward through all of that. By carrying Joseph's essence, Moses prepared the people to receive the Torah. He reminded them that even in moments of radical transition, we must remember who we are and what we stand for. Interestingly enough, in case you were curious, it was not Moses who buried Joseph's bones in the land of Israel. Rather, Rashi highlights in commenting in Deuteronomy chapter 8, if you have begun a commandment, be sure to finish it. For only the one who finishes it gets the credit. The actual burial of Joseph in Shechem was recorded in the book of Joshua. It was Joshua who fulfilled the mitzvah. But ultimately what we see is that it was Sirach to Moses to Joshua that communally the mitzvah was fulfilled. So what does this teach us about our lives in these chaotic times? Well, I think it points out a few different things. As Sforno points out, when we make a collective commitment, we must honor that collective commitment, even in times of change, even in moments of upheaval, even when it feels as if the world is falling around us. Second, as Rabbi Hezekiah ben Manoah, a 13th century French commentator, suggests, it matters deeply to honor the final wishes of those who can no longer honor or advocate for themselves. Joseph's brothers had sold him into slavery. Fulfilling his final wish was in fact an act of repentance and restoration. And in recent months, we've seen some of these principles in action. As Abigail Ehrman, assistant professor of Jewish education at JTS, notes, it has been nearly 600 days since October 7th, 2023. And yet, throughout Israel and around the world, people continue to demand for the release of the hostages in Gaza. This includes those living and those no longer living. The persistence embodies the legacy of Moses' leadership, refusing to abandon those who have been taken, maintaining an enduring commitment to human dignity, and acting with conviction and integrity in dark moments. The carrying forward of our history into our present reminds us and is a central theme in the Talmud, and tells us that when the Israelites traveled in the desert, they had 2 arks. We're frequently told that it's the complete ark with the complete 10 commandments, and the second ark had the broken commandments that Moses shattered when he descended from Mount Sinai. But there's a Talmudic story that says that really the second ark contained the bones of Joseph, that our vision for the future carried both hope and a recollection of the past. In our own lives, we too must carry both arcs. We must remember where we've came from while also moving forward to where we are going. We must honor the obligations of those who came before us while creating possibilities for those to follow. In the chaos of the Exodus, Moses remembered what truly mattered. He didn't abandon his commitments when things got difficult. He didn't forget his obligations when distractions abounded. And so I ask of us today, in the midst of our chaotic times, what obligations are we remembering and honoring? What promises are we keeping? What essence are we carrying forward? The markets will rise and fall. The news cycle will bring its daily dose of crisis. But like Moses at the edge of the sea, we have the capacity to remember who we are and what matters most, to carry both the pain and promise, the memory and the vision as we make our way toward redemption. May we, like Moses, have the wisdom to remember our obligations, the courage to fulfill them, and the faith to know that even when we cannot complete the work ourselves, our efforts connect us to generations past and generations yet to come. Shabbat Shalom.